This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. Warning: the following podcast contains irreverent humor, exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off this podcast immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
And you had show notes. This is why we don't do show prep, man.
AJ.
Chewy, crack a window. The cold air keeps me awake.
Steve.
Someone just Google me, all right? That's go screw. I don't need you to find my Twitter account.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we discuss The Director and the Jedi, a behind-the-scenes look at the making of The Last Jedi. If you're not a fan of the film, this documentary just might change your mind.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host. So polite. I am your host, JT. That's AJ the asshole, interrupting the awesome intro.
All right,
and there's
so
Steve.
that's 3 seconds in for an edit.
Yeah, how are you going to mark these this time?
We're not, Cole. That's how.
Maybe we'll just have another no swearing episode so that
That's
we can't mark them
already. So
well, at least now you know they're right in the beginning. So, anyways, welcome to another episode. We had actually talked about doing this previously, but I think tonight we want to talk about The Director and the Jedi, that awesome behind the scenes making of documentary that's a special feature on The Last Jedi. But before we do that,
I was about to say that was the quickest segue we've ever had on this show.
I have a Star Wars fun fact of the day.
This better not be root leaf stew again.
No.
Dude, he must have one of those calendars, the thing.
I do. Yeah, I do. It's a daily calendar, and like most of the time,
so you just remember them when you come over to record.
Well, only when it's not always like a fact or always a trivia question. It's always like a different picture.
Yoda is green.
Yeah, right. Right now it's on Return of the Jedi. So it's like sometimes it'll just have like the picture, sometimes it'll have the picture and a fact, and sometimes it'll have a picture and a trivia question. Like it all depends. Like, so today was a picture of the Rancor, and it said that Bib Fortuna gave Jabba the Hutt the Rancor as a birthday gift. Who knew?
I wish someone would do that for me.
Right?
That was extremely nice of Bumblebee Tuna to do that.
Dude, one of the I think it's one of the other podcasts or somebody we follow on our Twitter page tweeted out a picture of it, said this was on my calendar today, and I was like, I tweeted back, I said, I have that exact same calendar. Talk about a gift for the guy who has everything. What can I get him? I know what I'll get him. A giant carnivorous beast he can stick in a pit under his chair that eats people. Like that's a hell of a gift there, Bib Fortuna. Thanks.
Do you think he had the pit first?
That's a good question.
If
Maybe
I
he was
only
just
had
like-
something to put in there.
Right, he was just tossing people down there like fall, break an ankle. That's your punishment.
See, now that's a question. In the real world, we have the chicken or the egg. In Star Wars, we have the Rancor or the pit.
I like it.
Now, did he dig the pit because he got a Rancor, or did he have the pit and got a Rancor for it?
Maybe that's how
keep you
Bib
up at night.
Fortuna got the gift idea. He's like, that giant hole down there needs something.
That sure is one empty giant hole. What can we put down there?
You know what would fit perfectly? A Rancor.
And we got to find a job for that creepy fat guy that only walks around in a towel and a turban. let's make him. He can just keep track of that big old beastly thing we're gonna chuck down there.
In the back of his mind, Jabba's like, damn it, now where am I going to put the washer and dryer?
He can't do laundry anymore.
Damn thing ate my utility tub.
That's why when he started laughing in the middle of the night when Han Solo and Leia were about to escape, he wasn't actually sitting on his dais. He was actually sleeping on the washer and dryer because he had nowhere else to put it. So he had to put it in like a back room with a curtain separating it so it doesn't show to everybody. Kind of like when you're living in an efficiency and you don't want people to see your stuff. So you have to hang up a curtain.
That's what he did. It was a curtain.
It wasn't his dais. It was a couple of Maytags.
And a giant pile of laundry, I'm guessing.
It looked like a big alien, but it was actually a load of clothes. They should have just had the translation at the bottom instead of it being like you bantha poodoo. He was actually saying, I got bantha crap on one of my robes and I have to wash it tomorrow.
He was probably secretly happy that Han got thawed out. He's like, great. Okay, that's raised up, so there's no water damage going to happen. Yeah. It's got a 240. Great. We can plug in there.
So, yeah, we don't have to run the power line off of that thing anymore. We can unplug that and just plug in. Oh, my God. So anyways.
Speaking of Jabba, and this is also very cool, a little bit in the news, HasLab.
Yeah. They actually got 5,000 pre-orders for that thing.
You want to catch up the audience on what we're talking about here?
Well, basically Hasbro, the company that does the Black Series, which I'm collecting. I got a lot of those in the last few weeks.
I think they know who Hasbro is. Dude.
Well, they don't know about the. I don't know. Well, if they know, then why am I telling everybody about this? If they know Hasbro, then they've seen it in the Hasbro news or something.
Somebody just paused the podcast like, holy crap.
Yeah. So anyways,
I need to look this up online.
Yeah. And besides, I was only trying to say that Hasbro makes the Black Series line. So
hashtag breaking news.
Yes. So anyways, they have this new kind of thing they're doing called HasLab, and what they do is they come up with these kind of like dream projects, and they get them fully designed, but they don't put them into full production until they get a certain amount of pre-orders.
It's crowdfunding.
Yeah. And they basically made Jabba's sail barge, and it's the biggest like Star Wars toy ever. And they needed 5,000 pre-orders at $500 a piece, $499 something.
Yep.
In order to actually be able to make them. And they were pretty close to the deadline. Wasn't it like a week or two?
They got some late surge. Yeah. They only had like 1,500 pre-orders with like 3 weeks to go. So like 2 months went by and they only had like 1,500 pre-orders. It wasn't looking good. And then, some late surge. I don't know, but it's awesome. I mean, it's a 3 3/4 inch scale sail barge. So the thing is over like 4 feet long or something.
Yeah, it's huge.
Like if I had money to blow, that is one that I would get because that's my favorite movie of the whole bunch.
I would get two of them.
So like, yes, collectability as well. But
keep one in the box. You know how much you're gonna be able to sell that damn thing for down the road?
$500.
My ass. So anyways, you said you would get it because it is your favorite movie.
But then you realize what a slippery slope that is, because then you got to populate it with all the characters who were on that thing in the scene. So then you got to go get a whole bunch of 3 3/4 action figures, which I have only 2 of. You know what they are?
Ooh, trivia.
On. This is actually pretty easy if you think about it.
Hux
and
Hux.
Yes. I got the Force Awakens Hux and I got the Last Jedi.
Shut up.
I'm a Hux completist.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
The only one I need is the 6-inch Black Series.
Oh my gosh.
I got the pop vinyl. I got the Lego figure, which thankfully was not changed for the Last Jedi, so I don't have to get a second one. And he was put in the absolute worst set. He was put in the vehicle that never showed up in the movie. So
of course.
And it's a piece of crap as a Lego set.
So you have to have the second one though, because then you can say one's the episode 7 and one's episode 8.
AJ's going to be that guy that's at like the IX Center for like a convention someday for his Hux fan club, and it's just gonna look like when Virgil from WWF shows up at one of these things.
Exactly.
It's just gonna be AJ in like 40 empty chairs.
Oh, that's fantastic.
As the guy that plays Hux is at the convention, he's just hiding his head as he walks by. Nope.
So speaking of Black Series, thank you, Steve, for finding a second Poe Dameron helmet. And I gave you $40 tonight. Now I have a Poe Dameron Black Series helmet. Woo! So that's awesome. And in the last few weeks, let's see, which ones have I bought? I found for half price at Target, I got the Luke Skywalker on Achto with the little stand. It's basically standing in grass. So
yeah, isn't that like an exclusive for them or something?
Yeah, I finally found
the one that's in the really nice like fold open box.
Yeah, it's like $30. I got it for 15. I finally found a website that actually has all of the Black Series listed. And they have pictures of them too with the numbers and what year they came out. So it's pretty helpful. But so I got that. I got the Target exclusive First Order Stormtrooper Executioner. I got.
Speaking how much was that?
We got
it was like $19, $18 or something.
Oh, it's not getting discounted yet.
No, it was
before they locked the doors at Toys R Us. You gotta get that. The Ray exclusive from there.
They got that 2-pack with the with Akbar and the First Order officer.
Yeah, that one too. You gotta grab both of those before Toys R Us locks the door.
I should go look for that. I
should stop up there too, at least for the Ray to give it to Gwen. But
right.
Yeah, I forgot about the Akbar one. I should probably pick up both of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I got those, and I think I already talked about it, but I got the Ray on the speeder, and so basically I'm about to change my mailing address on Amazon. So that I can have these things delivered to work, because my wife keeps getting more and more progressively pissed off that Black Series keeps showing up. She was upstairs in the man cave cleaning something the other night when I was trying to bring it up from the store.
How's she gonna feel when you come walking into the house tonight wearing the Poe Dameron helmet?
She's never gonna see it. It's going on my desk at work. She's never gonna know, man. It's going by my Stormtrooper helmet.
You can always have them sent here or to my house, whatever.
No, I walked upstairs.
Hey, Steve, there's a giant box of Black Series coming to your house today.
Seriously. Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. So I walk upstairs to put my Black Series stuff. I have like a corner of the room that I basically have it all collected in for now, because I have to get actual like tubs for it until I have like display area. Mm-hmm. And I hear this, "Why are you over in the Black Series corner?" And I was like,
because that has a name.
Yeah.
I'm counting inventory. Leave me alone.
And because I didn't respond right away, she goes, "You better not be putting more you better not have bought more of those damn things." And I was like, it was on clearance. So I gave myself away instead of saying, "No, I was falling over. I wanted to put the stack back up," or something, at least something intelligible I would have gotten out of it. But no,
I bought a new Rubbermaid tote to put these in. That's all.
Yeah, right.
I want to hear from our audience. I want some feedback to find out if this is like a common problem. Like, does your fandom get in the way where you have to like sneak stuff into the house or lie about how you got it?
Well, she thinks I'm blowing like all this money, but the problem is like I get them on Amazon when they go on sale, because like, I mean, right now you get like Krennic for like $8. So I wait until they're inexpensive.
How much is Zuvio?
I already have him and I overpaid.
It doesn't. He's still at Walmart for $5.
Yeah. And I paid 16.
It doesn't matter. We should buy all the Zuvios. We talked about this before.
Create scarcity. It'll drive up the value.
Exactly.
Yes.
Supply and demand. Damn it.
Honestly, the really expensive ones I'm not going to get until probably around Celebration, because they're like the Boba Fett from the very first wave is going for like $100. So I'm going to basically kind of start now, and I'm going to collect them as they come out now in waves, because it'll just save me money down the road. But
do you have your porgs yet?
No, but if
those things just came and went, didn't they?
If I saw them at GameStop, if I'm right, the box is only like a few inches by a few inches.
Oh yeah, they're scaled to the 6-inch figures.
Okay,
so they're only like half an inch tall.
There was like $7 for those things at GameStop.
Yeah, they're $5.99 retail.
I was like, wow,
$3.50 for a half-inch tall piece of plastic.
But it is part of the set, so I have to get it.
Yeah,
it'll be the one I lose, and then it'll be worth a ton of money, because they're so hard to find, and then of course I will have had it and lost it.
You realize how much the designers at Hasbro are laughing their asses off at everyone who spends $6 on those things?
You know what I should do? I should buy like 20 of those and just put them at random spots all over my desk at work. And so I'll just have it'll look like there's like a crap load of porgs all over my desk. So when I'm busy reviewing contracts and all that other legal stuff, it looks like, there are like a bunch of porgs on Hoth or something because my desk surface is white. So
Nice.
And then speaking of Black Series, you had brought up earlier, AJ, before we started recording, that there's leaks of the Vader helmet.
Hitting Walmart shelves. Yep.
Need that. And then I think this fall for the Christmas rush, Black Series is going to release the Z6, the Riot baton.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
And I'm like, dude, I want that.
All right.
I want that baton and the Vader helmet. I need those both down here in the basement so bad.
Do you know how many kids are going to break those things like on day one?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Who's not going to try to use it as a riot baton?
I'm
Collectors.
I'm 35. You know I'm going to be in my house wearing the Vader helmet, swinging that baton around the night that I get those things, dude. Without a doubt.
You can't do that, Steve. Vader was dead.
It doesn't
before
matter.
that thing came around. So you can't mix sagas like that.
I
Duh.
can too, and I will.
More power to you.
And I'll put a stupid Star Trek phaser in my other hand just to annoy all the fandoms all at one time.
Let's not go overboard now. Come on.
Or I'll wave a wand from Harry Potter or something in the other hand and just trigger everybody.
So as we said at the outset of the show, what we wanted to talk about tonight was the behind the scenes making of documentary of The Last Jedi called The Director and the Jedi, which is a special feature if you bought the extended version of The Last Jedi on digital or on Blu-ray or 4K or whatever. The reason that I wanted to do like a whole episode about this is because it is one of the most fascinating things I have ever seen in terms of a movie product. I said that on the last show, but the most important thing I think for me about this and wanting to talk about it, and this will be probably a sales pitch right now, but that's okay. It's my show. I'm allowed to sell whatever the hell I want. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I don't know if you guys agree with me on this. When I watched this thing the first time, I was thinking the whole time, like, you know, for people that really, really hate this movie and are pissed off about all the things that are different and change the canon and everything, I really think if they watched this documentary and understood the logic behind why these things were done, it might change their opinion on the movie a little bit, if not a lot. What do you guys think? Because we all like the movie. So for us, it's just extra information that's really cool. But for people that don't like the movie, like, I just think
entirely possible. Because I mean, as I sat there and watched it, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this is probably the most in-depth like following of all this, at least for a Star Wars movie, but probably for any movie. Like, I can't recall having anything on my DVD shelf that has gone like that extensive. You know, you get like little behind the scenes things here and there, but this thing really seemed like it followed from day one to the damn movie releasing. Like, you got a lot of detail in this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I could see how it might sway some people. That
I just think it's
if you have half a brain in your head, it could sway you because you realize that it's a movie and you're not living in the fandom. So those people might have got their mind changed, but the crazies that, you know, live and breathe Star Wars like it's real life, they maybe not. They probably don't even watch those things because they refuse to acknowledge the fact that Luke Skywalker is a fictional character.
Yeah.
Instead of
the whole thing of it to me is like, normally you get these behind the scenes documentaries, and even the stuff people have compared it to the materials you would get with the prequels. And even those were just the nuts and bolts of, well, here's how we did this shot. Here's how we did this shot, you know, yada, yada. This one, I mean, it really delves into the actual making of everything, like the script and all the decisions that went into developing the characters. And it doesn't even just cut out. It doesn't just include like positive stuff. Like it includes like, I would say it's like warts and all, like, you know, stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
I was really surprised that they had that part where Mark Hamill was stating about how much he disliked this portion of it, and then Rian Johnson was like, yeah, I knew he hated this, and they kind of followed the two of them around that one day where Rian Johnson was trying to sell the scene to him about why it was how it was and everything. I'm like, that's nice that they left some of that stuff instead of just sugarcoating the whole thing.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And I just think that if you hate a movie as much as some people apparently, I mean, Nick Ammons, who we had on the show, he said, and I mean, he might be exaggerating, but he said it's literally the worst movie he's ever seen. I mean, Luke Skywalker is his favorite character, like Han Solo's mine. So of course he's pissed off they killed him, and then he thought that he was acting like a bitch and all this other stuff. But, you know, I mean, it's one thing to see how a movie's made, but to hear why they did it, I think, you know, really kind of enhances. I know for me, it's made me enjoy the movie even more. And I think for people that don't like the movie, I would highly recommend watching this, because maybe hearing why they went from point A to point B in such an interesting fashion, or a different fashion, or however you want to phrase it, depending on your outlook. I think it could really, you know, change your mind on a few things. And being that anybody listening to this is a Star Wars fan, if you didn't like The Last Jedi, you like Star Wars. So I would assume you wished you liked the movie. So maybe this will help. So that's my sales pitch for it. And, you know, I just think it's fascinating because it's so in depth. I mean, the very first scene, they start out, you know, at a back lot, like at like a little hutch or something, like at Pinewood Studios, like a little apartment or something. And they're running through the script.
I'm such a loser every time they showed Pinewood. I'm just like, somebody at Morningstar listens to our podcast.
Right? And I, when they were in Pinewood showing all the props and stuff, I was like, is one of those guys Mark? Like, I was trying to pause it on like the one time you could see a guy's name tag. Like, is that him? Like, but
trying to bust out all the super high def 4K things, trying to zoom in.
Yeah, right. Screen cap and like
you're zooming and enhance. You're zooming and enhance.
Zooming and enhance.
So you're going at that thing like the Zapruder film, trying to see if you can see the name tag.
Right.
Back into the left. Back into
Oh man.
No, it was a great documentary, but I don't know if it's going to change anybody's mind. I mean, it was cool getting the thought process in. I mean, let's face it, they obviously put a lot of care and detail into every movie. The thing is, though, I don't think anyone who doesn't like the decisions that were made is going to like them any better by hearing them explained.
I wonder about that. I honestly do.
That's what I said. I think you could probably sway a couple people by knowing the thought processes, but yeah, there's some people that are just going to be dead set on it regardless of.
Well, there are parts of the movie that I don't like, and seeing how they made the parts of the movie I don't like doesn't make me like them anymore. I'm like, why did you spend money and time on that?
Yeah, but I mean, I just think they present some things that might sway people a little bit. I mean, you know, Ron Bergman at one point, he says, you know, they had to remind Mark Hamill that, you know, in this movie, Luke Skywalker isn't really Luke Skywalker. He's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
So when you go at it, I just think that the things that they present in this documentary, once you have that knowledge and you go back and watch the movie, it gives you a different perspective on what you're watching. You know what I mean? I just had that a really strong feeling about that as I was watching this, because it really, knowing that it enhanced my enjoyment of it and my understanding of it. I really think that if somebody else who didn't like it saw that, I think a lot of people might go, okay, well, I can, you know, this is okay. Mm-hmm. I see why they did that.
What still blows my mind with how good the computer technology has gotten. I mean, you've both seen the ILM Lab stuff that I've been showing you from YouTube, where they did the whole like real time rendering demo and the leaked footage of the Millennium Falcon ride from Galaxy's Edge coming up. Like, they could do stuff purely digitally in real time, let alone like pre-rendered like they do for movies. And yet it's crazy the number of times they're like, no, we've really got to fly this giant animatronic sea cow all the way out to Ireland by helicopter.
Yeah, in pieces.
Like, what?
That's one thing I was thinking. I'm like,
sometimes you just look at it and you go, how do you get the budget for this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, they spent, that's one thing that was weird to me. They spent a pretty good amount of time on that damn sea cow in this thing. Like, they talk about how it was developed and, you know, the animatronics behind it and the logic and the flying it out there with a helicopter and setting it up on the side of the hill and all this. And the damn thing was in there for like 4 seconds.
Right. Like, why don't you just like fly out the close up piece, like fly out the boobs, So Luke can milk the damn thing on set, or on location rather, and then just like CG the rest in.
I thought the same thing. Like, isn't the CG good enough now to where you can't tell?
I thought so.
Like that?
I thought it was crazy when they showed him making the cow inside the studio. I was just like, I'm like, how did you not just CG that thing in there?
Yeah. I was shocked about that. I'm like, it's a damn sea cow. All it's used is to get the green milk for Luke.
And it's like you were just saying, CG is so good now that you really can't distinguish between something that was physically on set and that at this point. So it's really odd that they spent that much time and effort and money and everything on that.
And that's the thing is like, you saw the footage of the take. The milk was white on set, so they used digital to tint the milk green.
Right.
We don't got budget for food coloring, but let's get the damn sea cow out there.
Yeah,
I want to see that discussion.
It's because they wasted so much money on the helicopter and the physical sea cow.
That's what
green food color. I'll scratch that one out of the budget.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Damn it, Ryan Johnson. Why are you being such a about this? Get the damn food coloring. I'll bring it from home, you ass.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I've got a pause kit from Easter. I'll just use that, okay?
Yeah. The stupid wire thing that was never able to hold a damn egg.
Right? Paz Canada.
Pause Canada.
That's the Easter. Anyway. Yeah, I thought
Trademark. I know Easter went by, but there's always next year.
Could you imagine being in that meeting? All right, here's what we're going to do. Tell me if we got the budget for it. Okay, we're going to build a giant sea cow that's going to move in the movie for 5 seconds. Got it. We're going to make it animatronic. We're not going to CG it. Got it. We're going to fly it in a helicopter in 2 pieces out to a remote island where nobody's allowed to go. Got it. It's going to shoot out milk, actual milk. Mark Hamill has to be able to push on it and get milk into a cup. Got it. Okay, we need the milk to have green food coloring in it so it looks green. Whoa, no.
Whoa, hit the brakes.
Like,
slow down there, Chief.
Of all things to CG, the tint on the milk. Like, really?
Disney's not going to foot the bill for that one. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about Skellig Michael, since we're talking about that, they had all that scaffolding on that island. I wonder how close they got to having an accident or something, because that was crazy. I mean, it was already crappy weather and foggy, and then they're like shooting more like, movie rain onto the grass and everything. And I mean, they showed some of the drops and everything. I mean, that stuff was treacherous.
Yeah, that stuff was crazy. I can't believe how much they actually filmed on location for that. I mean, I know a good portion of the movie took place there, but except for wide shots, you could duplicate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And for the nighttime sets and stuff they did, but man, I appreciate the care that they took in getting out there to get those shots on location for the realism of it. And obviously they're professionals and they put out a great product, so they knew what they were doing in making that choice. But
yeah,
it seems like they could have gone an easier route and gotten a very similar product out of it.
Yeah. Like I know it does look different, because I mean, even in the theater, I was like, well, this looks a little different, like the Jedi tree when it was on fire, and the Jedi village type of thing. I'm like, okay. And so it is a very, very tiny thing, but I guess you could kind of notice a little difference between a set that they built and the being actually on the island, but it's not that big a difference. And especially considering that they did build those sets, the Jedi tree and I mean, those things were enormous. That was crazy.
Giant sets. The casino.
The casino was the biggest one.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, of all the things to blow your budget on.
Yeah. Why would you not CG the crap out of that?
Yeah. And then all the extras, and everybody had their own little outfits that were designed and physically made for these people. Like you said, just again, CG. You could have had 4 people in that scene total and just CG'd everything else in, and they just chose not to.
Yeah. I mean,
but again, no green food coloring for the milk. You could have had one less extra in the casino and you wouldn't have had that problem.
Right? Yeah. Speaking of extras, did you see that? Well, yeah, I guess they did show it. The scene that was cut from the movie, the deleted scene. I think it was like with a Fadir falling into like the spa kind of area.
Yep.
On the big fat alien.
Yeah,
dude. And the little one-eyed alien, that being a rubber suit with Warwick Davis getting in there, how did he not get claustrophobia? I would. Could you imagine being in that constrictive suit? I mean, oh my God, it's like rubber.
Yeah, and it's hot on a movie set. I mean, lights are hot. I can't. Oh my God. You know what it reminds me of, actually? You remember that episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Frank stuffs himself into a chair at his former company? He goes to the Christmas party and hides in the chair, a leather chair, so he can like hear what they say about him. he damn near asphyxiates in the thing, and of course he like claws his way out like a fat little baby. He's just like he's completely naked. He's like throwing off all his clothes because he's like dying of like heat stroke in the thing. I'm just picturing Warwick Davis doing that or something.
I don't know how he did it. I'm watching, like, you would never get me in that thing.
And then to cut it out of the movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that really count as him being in the movie then?
I think it was in some other stuff. He's usually in multiple things. I think they're saying I mean, off this topic, but they're saying that people are saying they already found him in Solo as one of the Cloud Riders.
Sure.
Enfys Nest's gang. They took screenshots of the trailer and they pulled out each one individually, and there's like a little person, and they're like, oh, it's got to be Warwick Davis. So he's under a ton of costuming, but
is that typecasting?
I just think it's like a Star Wars thing
It's
now.
like, dude, as soon as you see a little person in Star Wars, people are just like,
but it is.
Or if you were a director, would you like design a really like long-legged, like a stupid long-legged alien and put Warwick Davis on stilts?
Just to throw people off,
just to mess with the geometry and everything.
Make him the tallest one at some point.
Right, exactly. I think that'd be hilarious.
Have him learn how to walk on stilts, and then you're like, no little people. Warwick Davis
put him in the Chewie outfit.
Basically, make him.
He's the next Chewbacca. That would be awesome. Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, moving on. No,
there you go.
Now, on the story points that they discussed, though, like that's always my favorite part of these behind the scenes things. Anytime they can talk about like the creative process and like, I did this because of this. Like that's why we love hearing Dave Filoni interviews so much, because that guy loves to talk about his thought process behind the decisions. So to hear Rian Johnson go on about, you know, I think this is where you were going with this. We've talked about this before. I tried to think of what is the hardest thing each of these characters can face. And that's where he came up with things like, well, Rey wants to know who her parents are, so we're not going to tell her.
And when she wants to belong.
Right.
And then what she finds out is that she doesn't belong to anybody or anything.
Kylo wants Snoke's approval, so no, we're going to crap on you. Finn just wants to escape, so we're going to trap him.
Well, he wants Rey, and he can never get at her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's the whole thing. Like,
where's Rey? Where's Rey?
Everything that all the heroes want in this, and the villains too, they don't get it. That's the whole point of the movie, which is friggin' brilliant.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, again, it's the things that he explains, like, and knowing that when you look at that as a whole, you know, it's kind of like it really makes the movie.
It's probably because most of it is so obvious, but you didn't think of it or think about it until he mentioned.
Yeah, it's like hope in the face of disappointment.
Yeah,
like when you just don't get what you want, which to me is fascinating when you consider how many people are pissing all over this movie because they didn't get an actual lightsaber battle. You know, it changed this, that, and the other, and it wasn't exactly like what, you know, can I say something on that, by the way?
He went all meta on them.
Yeah.
And before you get into that, somebody was totally arguing with one of my wife's friends was arguing with her about how crappy the movie was. Not that, probably within the last week. And that was one of his major arguments was the lack of a lightsaber fight at the end of the movie because all the other ones had it, and it's just like, oh, God.
Yeah, okay. See,
like we've covered that so many times, or it's just like,
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, and that actually plays into what I was going to ask you guys. I mean, you already had that 7 times. Do you need it an 8th time? No, you don't,
because the throne room took that and made like that was the lightsaber fight. Obviously,
yeah,
you didn't need to crack lightsabers together to have the fight. Like the throne room scene was absolutely perfect. I texted you the night that I bought the Blu-ray and actually got to watch it for a second time, and I was like, dude, I forgot how much I really like the throne room scene.
Right? Yeah,
like that thing was so well done, and with the exception of the missing knife that everybody's pointing out now.
What?
That the one guard had 2 knives, the 2 blades.
Yeah.
And he hits or goes to swing at Rey and she spins around and he goes to grab her and his hand magically doesn't have the second blade in it anymore.
Oh God. Why do people do that?
Because it's Star Wars fans.
It's the frenzy of the fight and he dropped it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go.
Yeah.
As much as I like doing this and like talking to people about Star Wars, like Star Wars fans are some of the most toxic morons I've ever had to meet in my life.
Dude, honestly,
like,
AJ and
I love everybody and hate everybody at the same time. So like it's some Star Wars fans are just so bad that they need to fine tooth comb these things and go,
AJ and I came up with
blade is clearly half an inch smaller than the one in his other hand.
AJ and I came up with the idea if we get a Patreon thing going to do special episodes, and we're just going to call them Troll the Trolls, and we're going to find people that bitch and we're just going to shred them. Because
I love it. Let's do it.
Some of the stuff I see, I can't stand it. It's like the negativity. So it's like, all right, you want to be negative?
If you're willing to pay $1 a month for that, go ahead and hit us up in the comments
Exactly.
on whatever your platform you're listening to.
It'll actually be me actually raving and ranting and throwing a fit at these a-holes. But anyway, my question to you,
do you
guys,
want to hear shows that we don't bother to edit?
Yeah, exactly. Watch the cursing on that. But, no, what I want to ask you guys, like, how many people, if you were to take a poll of, let's say, 1,000 people that don't like The Last Jedi, how many of them do you think would be prequel haters as well? I think most of them.
Probably most of them, because I think the Last Jedi is right up there with the same. It's right up there with the prequels in the fact that I brought it up on here before that it is the cool thing to do to crap all over the movie now.
Yeah,
because you cannot have your own personal opinion and say you like the movie because people would just jump on you like friggin' piranhas, you know, and so people are afraid to come up with their own thought processes. So it's easier to just be like, hey, yeah, it's hot garbage.
Yeah. I think it's because the prequels and The Last Jedi changed the narrative.
I think they might be there might be some overlap, but not for the same reasons.
Not for all the same reasons, but I think the overarching thing is that they both told an original story. It didn't just ape the original trilogy,
but they hated it. That's not the gripe of the prequels, though. We're not going to segue this into another prequel debate, but
no, we're not.
The main gripe about the prequels is not in the story itself; it's in its execution.
No,
and
a lot of
the
people
story was executed beautifully in Last Jedi.
No, a lot of people bitch about the political stuff and the depiction of the characters not being like Star Warsy. Like, they thought it was the story of Darth Vader, and instead of him being just a total badass, he was a kid and a whiny punk teenager and all this. Like, it was different.
If you write out the outline of the prequels, it's there. Like, the bones are there, and it just didn't. People rip on the acting. They rip on the over-reliance of CG. Those are the main gripes. No, the story is an issue, but it's not the top issue that has most people all.
No, I'm not saying it's a top issue.
But Last Jedi, it is absolutely the story. It's because it goes against everything they were expecting.
I just really firmly believe, because I've seen it in comments, this sucks worse than the prequels or almost as bad as the prequels.
Well,
a lot.
People just say that to try to trigger things.
Well, yeah, it's not. They're not drawing a comparison.
Responses.
They're not drawing a similarity between them. They're just comparing it to something else about Star Wars that people hate.
Yeah. So,
I think AJ's right. It's that you got the same haters, but it's for different reasons.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, given the rapid pace of digital effects and how good they are now? Because I don't remember anyone really complaining about the effects when the prequels came out, because they were mind blowing at the time.
Yeah, no.
Do you think that they've hit on that magic balance now where practical and CG have balanced out to where they can age gracefully with each other now?
Oh, yeah.
So no one's going to go back to like Last Jedi or Force Awakens and be like, oh my God, that digital is such crap.
No, I mean, it's really, really difficult to tell what's what. I mean, in some cases you can, obviously, but
we've been fooled in the opposite direction. We're like, that's got to be digital.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's practical.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And also, I think part of it is also because the original trilogy purists, the ones that'll just crap on the prequels no matter what, even if it looks like garbage, they'll go, oh, it looks amazing, unlike the prequels, just because they don't want to admit that something that relates to the original trilogy isn't as good as people think.
Did you notice? I don't know if that was like an intentional dig, but it could be taken as such. When they were deciding how to do Yoda, they're going back and forth like, we need the puppet. We need puppet Yoda from Empire. They didn't say we can't have digital Yoda because digital Yoda sucks, but they definitely said we need puppet Yoda from Empire. Let's get that mold and do that again.
Yeah, I don't think it was a dig, but
speaking of that part of the documentary, proud parent moment was watching that with Madison, and at 12 years old, even she thought it was amazing that they had the original molds of
really?
Yoda brought in to make the puppet for Last Jedi.
Like, I didn't know that stuff held up well enough to do that.
Yeah, seeing those really old wooden boxes with the molds in it, like that was really cool that they had used those.
That's amazing.
I said even my daughter was like, wow, that's amazing. And I'm like,
more and more, I get the impression that the Lucasfilm archives are the warehouse from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, yeah,
There's just
seriously.
rows upon rows of giant wooden crates that no one's going to ever open again, but it's got treasure in every one.
I'm telling you, one of my favorite things is on it's one of the special features. It's kind of hard to get to, actually, on the Blu-ray set of the original 6 movies, where they do the tour of the barn. It's like,
when it's doing that like fast thing up the driveway and past the house and into the barn, and
to be able to go in there, like oh my God. But
they can't do tours of that because of people like you, because you'd be too busy finger effing everything.
I was going to say those things are very sensitive to moisture. Those things are very sensitive to moisture and well, write your own jokes. There's lots of things that can leak out of people when they get excited.
Good Lord.
You really think you'd be able to contain yourself in there?
Oh yeah. I'd be crying from sheer excitement, but
when they open a box and they got Han's blaster right there and it's sitting 6 inches from your hand, you're telling me you could sit there and not grab a hold of that thing?
Look,
I'd be frozen in my place.
As long as the tour,
I call shenanigans. You would pick that thing up and start pewing all over the damn room, right, dude.
As long as the tour doesn't last more than 4 hours, we'll be okay, because otherwise that's a medical condition. You got to go to the doctor for it.
Very nice.
But speaking of details that I noticed and props,
before you walk into the barn, they give you a big piece of duct tape.
Exactly.
Here's your complimentary piece of Star Wars duct tape. Please put this on your thigh.
Yeah, which side does this go on, sir? Yeah. Do you hang to the left or the right?
Oh, man.
Starboard or port? No, did you notice? I totally missed this.
If we hear anything that sounds like Velcro, you're going to be escorted out of the tour immediately.
Oh my God.
I totally missed. Speaking of props, I'm trying to get this back on track, guys.
Yeah, right.
Good luck.
One more reason to love the Holdo scene besides Laura Dern going pew pew.
I didn't see that in this thing.
Did you notice?
How did I miss that?
Maybe it was in one of the other featurettes. I don't know. But it was in there. It was totally in there. I saw it. But it wasn't in this one, come to think of it. But did you notice the gun she used to shoot? Or maybe it was the one that Leia used to fire on Poe. But they gave a quick cut to the...
it was her gun from episode 4.
Right, the Tantive 4.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I was like, what a crazy callback that went completely over my head. I didn't even notice it until they pointed it out in the documentary.
Yep.
I was like, that. Those are the little like bits of attention to detail that just like blow my mind. As much as we hate, people obsessed about Star Wars too much, it's a good thing they do, because man, when they get those details in there, that is so cool.
And those are the things that are fine to find. I don't mind that crap.
Right. Speaking of Carrie Fisher, one of the things that I really noticed about this documentary, like, and I think you got it from the movie too, but seeing the making of, I mean, you always appreciate the actors and actresses, especially the main players. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Princess Leia was always just Princess Leia to me. It's like, all right, whatever, Princess Leia. Okay, whatever. And then Carrie Fisher died, and then she's not at Celebration. And we've talked about how it was like, then you really start to feel it. You're like, wow, this is like a pretty big void. And when you watch The Last Jedi, you're like, man, Leia's actually like really cool in this. Like, it sucks that she's gone. And then you see the documentary and her doing the different bits of acting and getting emotional at stuff. And you start to appreciate her in a way you've never gotten to see her before. And it just made it suck that much worse. It's like,
know what you got.
Exactly. Like, I mean, it really sucks because 9 was supposed to be her movie. And now this documentary just made me sit there and go, man, I really would have loved to have seen what they would have done.
Yep.
If she was the focal point. It was like a mother-son story.
It's a gut punch all over again. I'm surprised by how much it moves me every time something comes up about it too.
Yeah.
And see the documentary and like you said, like the one line that they caught from her was when she said, like, I think this might be my best work.
Yeah.
Like, she was really like invested in it and excited to play the character. It wasn't just like, well, you know, I get a big paycheck because I was in the first 3.
Yeah.
Like, to see where that could have gone, because she's so like, you know, flippant and always making jokes and stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's really cool to have that shot and know that she really does take it seriously and try to put everything she has into what she's given.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that that's her approach. And now that she was going to be able to like really step up and have the stage to do it and never know what that could have been.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
It's so depressing. It really is. And I, you know, again, when she passed, I was like, well, this really sucks, you know, like, feel bad, you know, from a human standpoint, but from a Star Wars standpoint, I was like, okay, well, I was never really invested in Princess Leia. But when you really realize, you know, how important she actually was, and then you start thinking about and seeing, because of this, you know, Director of the Jedi, what could have been. I mean, you're just like, especially for me, somebody who always wants to see something new and original in Star Wars, like for them to actually have a movie based around Leia, like a mother-son thing, it's like a totally different dynamic. And it was a very original idea, and now they can't do it. It's just, oh my gosh. And you know, it kind of, that ties into something that I noticed about this too. I don't know if you guys noticed this as much as I did, because I watched it with headphones today and yesterday and today. But they added music to this documentary, and it makes it like its own movie.
Yeah.
And the music behind some of the emotional parts of this thing, man, like you almost tear up. It's really emotionally strong stuff.
As they follow the production and it gets towards the end of shooting and they're talking about wrapping it up and how it's going to be bittersweet and all this stuff, I didn't want the documentary to end.
Yeah,
I'm like,
same here.
I know the documentary's ending, and I also don't want to like leave this world of like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's just long enough to suck you into that world that you want more of it.
Yeah,
I was like, where's the second half with post production? Let me stay in Star Wars production land, please.
Exactly.
Just put a camera in post and let us watch you edit the movie like for 16 weeks or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, it was so cool to me that they did that, like adding music and making it like its own entity, like its own film. And it just enhanced it so much for me. Mm-hmm. And
pretty soon they're going to have making of documentaries.
Yeah. I just don't understand why more like movie producers and film companies and stuff and directors don't do more things like this. It's like, it's got to
be a pain in the ass for him. Like, there was that scene with Anthony Daniels where he wanted to whisper something to Rian Johnson. He's like, wait, are you mic'd up? Like, you have to just basically be paranoid about always being on a camera of some sort.
It's like all these guys were just on a reality TV show while they were trying to film a movie.
Yeah.
Also, how the hell do you put together something like this? I mean, that shooting schedule was 100 days long. How do you pour through, not all 100 days? I'm sure there was a long period of time they weren't mic'd up, but
yeah,
still the number of hours of footage to put this thing together. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's incredibly well done. And like I say, it's just crazy because it does show, you know, more than just nuts and bolts. It's, well, them reworking the script. I mean, one of the deleted scenes is the alternate opening to the movie, and they show a part in the documentary where Rian Johnson's sitting there with Ron Bergman, and he's like, I'm kind of freaking out because I have to rewrite the beginning of the movie. Like, it just isn't good enough. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, you don't know what's going on. You don't understand the stakes. Like, and so you
it was the right call though.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It certainly was, especially after watching what it was. You were just like, no, that wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
To start the movie out with the joke of Finn falling off of that table and stuff. It just would have been really
very much so.
Really odd to start breaking into the jokes 30 seconds into the movie like that.
Yeah. And just seeing how that comes to pass, you know, like I said at the very beginning, when it's Mark Hamill and Daisy Ridley working out, you know, them fighting on the island, and little things like, instead of her like pointing the spear at him, like talking about like, you know, what if we got down on our knees and got closer to him face to face, so you're not so much attacking him so much as like more intimately talking to him, like reading through the script and seeing how it's different when it becomes not just words on a page and actually people acting things out. Just watching that process is absolutely fascinating. And I mean, I'd never seen anything like that. And the other part to me, you know, to see people acting and to see how their performances change, you know, and them doing multiple takes. I mean, you have such an appreciation for what they do. Like I thought, I mean, going back to Carrie Fisher, like I thought that she was like telling a joke until I realized what part she was doing when she went, what should I say? Finn. I'm like, I thought she was laughing. And then Oscar Isaac goes, say Finn with 2 commas. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, they're making a joke, until you see it's Rose and Finn, like when they crash land in the, you know, the bunker or whatever the hell you want to call it, like the garage on Crate.
The garage. I like that. Let's go with that.
Yeah. The Crate garage. And, you know, she goes, Finn, when he's like, don't shoot. So I'm like, oh, that's an actual thing. So seeing them work that out, and then you have Anthony Daniels doing multiple takes of lines with different inflection here and there, like so they have multiple things to choose from. It's incredible. And you know, to your point, Steve, you know, when they were talking about Mark Hamill not being on board at all with the idea of the Luke Skywalker in this movie, and then Rian Johnson talking to him about it. And they mention it a few times in there, you know, I mean, there's Mark Hamill comes out and says, he's like, this isn't news, but I was completely against everything that he did. And, you know, you see them talking about it, and I mean, it's crazy. And like I say, that's when we talked about like even leaving the negative stuff, and like the costume designer, when they're talking about Canto Bight, and he was saying that, you know, Ryan wanted it to be this elegant kind of James Bondian type of a thing. And he's like, really? You want that in a Star Wars movie? But so, I mean, they left stuff in where people were like, what the hell is this guy thinking? Which was really cool, because, you know, it wasn't like they just sugarcoated everything and made it seem like it was a love fest everywhere. You know, there were doubts about this, and people weren't sure about some of these ideas. And, you know, he mentions even, you know, about Carrie Fisher, you know, he talks about how much he likes her, but he says even when she was being a pain in the ass. So he admits like it wasn't always, you know, smooth sailing.
I love how they also dug into Rian Johnson a little bit too, and they were like, "You pretty much know what his reaction is. He's only got 2. He's got the high pitched giggle or the
yeah," and they showed both examples.
Yeah,
of it.
like it's cool that he like is tongue in cheek enough. He can like have a little fun with himself in basically his own documentary.
Yeah,
I mean that's the thing. Like, how many of these special features have Rian Johnson at least introducing it or doing commentary or being the center of the documentary? Like, it's very clear that Rian Johnson is very comfortable being in front of some camera to explain things.
Yeah.
He very much likes to get out there and tell his side of things.
I thought that was cool though. Like, I mean, you know, he explains before the deleted scenes, like, you know, you can have it with or without commentary. He talks about why he did this, that, and the other. You know, on the bonus features, he talks. There's always those little segments of him at the beginning of them explaining different things, and it's really cool.
I do get the impression from watching all the stuff that he's the sort of guy that obviously you're never going to get direct access to him, but if you did just like run across him in a bar and be like, hey man, can I just ask you like one question? Why did you do this or that? He'd be like, oh, I'd love to talk about that. Sure.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be like, it's my movie. I did it the way I want. F you.
Right. Yeah.
You get that answer depending how many drinks he's in when you bump into him at the bar that night.
Like Ray Park. So speaking of Rian Johnson, I wrote down an interesting thought. And
we'll see about that.
I wonder, see if I kind of drew a parallel when I was watching this thing and thinking about what he did and fan reaction and things like that. And, you know, the fact that he's doing another trilogy. And is he going to be like the new George Lucas? Like everyone's like, oh, it's going to be Filoni. Like Filoni's the new George. But you think about it, like Rian Johnson is actually completely pushing the envelope of Star Wars. He is polarizing as hell to the fan base. Like people either love him or hate him. And he's taking all these risks. He basically has that kind of George Lucas spirit of independent filmmaking, but done on a monstrous level. I mean, there's a lot of parallels when you dig into it, I think.
I'm going to say no for 2 reasons.
No flannel shirt.
Well, yeah. Now, what I did see is
Point two.
He did have the fedora like Dave Filoni, though. So that's a good sign.
Yes.
But no, my two points are this. One, there's so much Star Wars storytelling going on right now that no one guy can oversee everything like George did. So that's point number 1. And point number 2, I don't think they want anyone to have that much control over it. I think they like to do storytelling by committee at this point.
I agree with that, but he will have done 4 movies. And
they seem to keep shifting the tone from movie to movie. I think they like that. They're going the Marvel route of like picking a genre and making a film in that style. So they don't want one guy who's got his style to have his stamp on everything.
Yeah. I just think there's so many parallels that can be drawn between George Lucas and Rian Johnson. Maybe not immediately right now, but definitely down the road once he has more movies out and he's, more entrenched in the Star Wars universe. I just think if anybody's going to be like George Lucas was, I think it's going to be him.
Well, I do wonder if it's like a fraternity of sorts where, once you're in, you're in. So like, Gareth Edwards got a cameo in the crate battle.
Yeah.
Little things like that where I'm sure Dave Filoni was touring the set, that kind of stuff where like, if you're in the storytelling group, in the group of directors or leaders of storytelling for Star Wars, if you always have a hand in it or a voice in it where like maybe JJ talks to Rian Johnson, not because he has to, but because he wants to. Maybe he can. Well, like even the clip. Obviously, you would do this, but in the documentary where there's that little clip where George Lucas wants to talk to Rian Johnson tonight. Well, of course, you're going to take that phone call if you're Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
So what if the guy who now is going to have 4 films under his belt in Star Wars wants to talk to you, Director X, on your movie for Star Wars? Wouldn't you listen?
Yeah.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going anywhere in terms of like, he's not like, well, I'm done with Star Wars now on my other projects, but I don't think they're going to like hand him the keys, be like, what do you want to do, Rian Johnson? The franchise is yours.
Well, I don't mean it in that way. I just mean in terms of, polarizing to the fan base. He's the one that's really trying to push the envelope of where Star Wars can go. Mm-hmm. And, he's going to be writing everything instead of how they did this new trilogy where
I think maybe they figured out that was not such a great idea.
Well, I guess we'll find out. I don't know. It just seems very similar to me. At least I thought.
Yeah, so. I think the plan for this trilogy was to do it like the original trilogy in that you had one director, George, make the first one. And then Kirshner came in on the second one and gave it a different tone, but with the guiding voice of EP George Lucas. Mm-hmm. And then, Richard Marquand came in and did Return of the Jedi. So you did have different directors in the chair, but you had that one constant voice throughout.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea was for Kathleen Kennedy to kind of be that guiding voice and vision for this trilogy. But instead, I feel like they played it safe with 7 and just, hit all the right beats to give the fans what they wanted. And then she's letting the director have more of a hands-on approach instead of like corralling it so much. Now that she's found a guy that she likes the way it's going.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of had a reverse course there for a second because I remembered Rogue One and Han Solo.
So
speaking of Solo and speaking of the MCU stuff, are we done with the balance of the director and the Jedi yet? Because I'm sorry, we never.
No.
All right,
not at all. And I don't want to talk about the MCU because I saw a really dumb tweet today.
I don't want to talk MCU either.
Somebody wrote an article, things the Last Jedi could learn from the Black Panther. What? How to be a highly average and way overrated movie? No thanks. There's my review of Black Panther. It's one of the worst Marvel movies out there. There you go. And I have no idea how it made all that money because it's not great.
I don't want to get.
It's a cool movie, but in terms of a Marvel movie, it's definitely bottom of the barrel. So anyway,
I don't want to get totally off topic into MCU. No. So we'll keep it in Star Wars though. But
yeah, I have a few more things I wanted to talk about.
I'm surprised that nowhere in the brainstorming session did any discussion about the official Han Solo trailer come up for tonight's show.
No, we
talk about a movie so different in tone from Last Jedi.
Yeah, but we did a trailer react show before. I mean, we can do it again down the road because I saw like a shot by shot breakdown and it completely changed my opinion on the movie in a lot of ways. So that would be something to talk about. But this director and the Jedi thing is so fascinating to me because I just have a lot of opinions on it. So to come off the topic, I still have things that I wanted to bring up.
Okay. So, next point.
Did you notice, and this is a small point, and maybe this is just us being super nerds, when Mark Hamill had that group of people around him, he was telling the story about how they cast Anthony Daniels, how they came up with the voice. I'm thinking to myself, how do you not know that story? Like everybody, like Star Wars fans know that I mean, it was in Empire of Dreams, which everybody has seen. And then I stopped and I thought, I'm like, am I just that nerdy that I've seen all this stuff a bunch of times?
I think it's at a point where, sorry, I think it's at a point that if you were walking around that set knowing that story, but Mark Hamill wanted to start telling you that story, you would stand there and you would stare in amazement like you had never heard it before in your life.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's that's probably what was happening is in their head. They're just like, yeah, Mark, I totally know this, but keep going.
They might not. Okay. Just because we obsess and we're super fans of the franchise and have seen all the behind the scenes stuff, that doesn't mean that people working on the film are. They may like Star Wars, may have seen the movies, but that doesn't mean they've obsessed and seen every documentary and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might have been the first time they heard it. And
very true.
And that was going to be my point too, Steve. Whatever Mark Hamill wants to tell me about any anecdote from the set of Star Wars, I will listen to it, even if it's the 100th time.
It's like that guy in the Canto Bight set that ran into him when he's just sitting there. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I just realized who you were. Like, I'm so sorry to bump into you." The guy was like, "Oh my God, I just ran into Mark Hamill." He's like, "No, it's okay." He's like, "You were amazing in my childhood. Thank you." He's like, "No, thank you." Like the guy,
and then he's like, "You can't even see in that thing. Let me walk you to where you're supposed to be."
Yeah, like total. That was funny, man.
Mark Hamill was my on-set handler for the day. That's the story.
I seriously, speaking of Mark Hamill and everything, like one of the things I took out of this, going back to like the emotional aspect of this thing, it really hit me that the original trilogy characters are going to be gone soon. And it hurts because it's like opening an old wound you didn't know that could be opened. Like, when they announced that they were doing new movies, when the Disney sale happened, I was like, oh, cool. I get more Star Wars. And then you find out that Han and Leia and Luke are going to be in it. And all of a sudden it's like, man, it's like, I didn't realize how much I missed them. And now that they're going to be gone again, it hurts all over
right?
again. I was like, man, this is going to suck.
The thought I had today watching the documentary was, what couldn't any of them have ended up in a good place?
Yeah.
Seriously. All three characters, Han, well, let's see. He had a kid and then was basically a deadbeat dad. He just took off on his own. His marriage fell apart and he went back to being a smuggler again. Leia gets outed as Vader's daughter and gets booted out of the Senate because people are afraid of her now. And then she leads this ragtag band of resistance fighters against another oppressive enemy. And then Luke Skywalker goes off to an island to die alone. Damn, dude, no one had any fun after the original trilogy.
Well, at least Luke Skywalker died being the ultimate hero. Right as the good guys were going to get snuffed out forever. He basically brought everyone back together and was like, there's hope, man. Like, we got this. Like, here, I'm going to sacrifice myself in the name of hope, you know, like to give you guys a chance.
He was the spark.
Yes, exactly.
It was a cool ending, but same thing in the documentary when they're coming around to that scene. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
It just drills home that like, we don't have Luke Skywalker anymore.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be like, damn it, no Luke Skywalker, but he's cool now.
I really hope that they do the Force Ghost thing. I don't see how they can't. Because to just have Rey out there, like, yeah, I'm going to be a Jedi now. Well, how? I mean, Kylo's not going to teach you
just
because
overkill it. Just give her all the Force Ghosts. Just have Yoda and Anakin and Luke, and just have everybody there just in her ear the entire time, just arguing with each other over which teaching should be the correct way.
Right? the guy from the Star Wars Robot Chicken. Why do I always have to get the pizza? Like
Yariel Poof.
Yariel Poof. That's a Force Ghost. You don't want to use the Force like that. Give him the same voice.
Why is Chewie always left on the Falcon? Oh, I'll fix the Falcon. You go off and have the adventure.
That'd be so good.
Yeah, it starts off with Luke and Obi-Wan and stuff, and then slowly, like, you just start getting random Force Ghosts in there.
Yaddle just standing there, like, everyone's like, who the heck is that Yoda looking thing? Like, what in the hell is that?
Yoda became a cross-dresser after dying. Oh no, that's not. Sorry.
It's kind of like, was it Stripe and Gremlins when he had like the wig and the makeup on or whatever? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think mostly my last couple points are just about like the emotional impact of this thing.
Then they all just start going off on their own tangents, not even talking about Rey or trying to teach her. They're just all making fun of Anakin for never being a master Jedi and stuff like that. What do you got to teach? You never had the rank of master.
No. So like, really my last few points are based around the emotional impact of this thing, because there's so many things that kind of took me by surprise. Like, I never knew that, and this is probably stupid of me, but you saw a few times in this when the actors were doing these emotional scenes where they like had to cry and stuff, they had to really calm down after they were done. Yep. I mean, the scene with Luke where he was, you know, supposedly he was looking at the Jedi Academy in flames, and I don't think it shows him actually weep in the final cut of the movie, but in this it shows that. And he's just bent over, like he's just hunched over, and they cut, and Rian Johnson goes up to him and he's like, man, amazing job. But he doesn't really look up, and they basically have to leave him alone for a bit. Like, he stayed hunched over. So he was really, really emotional. And I mean, you had that. I mean, it happened to Daisy Ridley in a scene with,
what is it with her anyway? I saw that scene and I was like, can I like jump through my phone into this footage and give her a big hug right now?
Yeah. She's so awesome.
Yeah,
man. That
something about her.
So great. Seriously. I had the same thing. There's just something, you gravitate towards her in that character. It's just so cool.
She is the perfect character and in a lot of ways actress, it seems, to pick up the mantle from Luke Skywalker / Mark Hamill. Like, talk about inhabiting the role, loving the opportunity, and just knocking it out of the park. Like, that was the one character that we all gravitated towards immediately in Force Awakens as well. And she's definitely the Luke of the new trilogy without intentionally being the Luke. Just the way she fits and resonates, and and the behind the scenes does nothing but reinforce that.
Exactly.
I still stand by the fact that I absolutely hate how much I love the character. Like,
you're a Darksider.
Because I've always gravitated towards the bad guy in these movies, and it's just like, how did I instantly just fell in love with Rey as a character like minutes after seeing her in Episode 7? I'm just like, wait a minute, like I'm not even being true to myself right now. What the hell's going on?
Yep. That's still the biggest shock of the whole new trilogy to me, is that, you know, like, I just never expected to love one of the new characters like that. I was just like, I'm sure they'll be cool, but I want to see Han Solo. You know, I want to see Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Chewbacca. Like, that's cool. Like, these new characters just, you know, they're not going to be on par with them for me, because I've known these other ones for, you know, 30 some years.
Hashtag not my Star Wars.
Yeah. Right. And then I immediately was like, totally sucked into that Rey character. I'm like, wow, to the point where I didn't even think about it. I just accepted her as a kick-ass Star Wars character, like she'd been there forever.
Yep.
I mean, it was great. And
I felt that way about Hux.
Shut up. So one last thing on the emotional thing, because I think to me this was the centerpiece of this whole documentary. Showing them filming the Luke and Leia scene from the end of the film, that was unbelievable. It was, I mean, it was, I keep using the word emotional, but whatever. It was emotional in the movie. You know, it was very, you know, deep, but something about seeing them filming it and having all these people around and them having to do this incredibly, you know, deep and resonant scene. And it was a little bit longer than it was in the movie, and just watching them play off each other. It was, stupid word. I know it's like out of a novel, but it was spellbinding.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
I really liked that it wasn't a lot of the stuff they showed in the documentary as well. They were alternate takes. It wasn't just, which, you know, if it's a music documentary, it's really cool to see them like play the thing that actually ends up on the track on the album. Mm-hmm. But it's way cooler with behind the scenes footage of movies to see all the different ways they tried it before they got it to the one you see. And it was such a different tone. So much more like intimate.
Yeah,
I guess is the best
perfect word. Perfect word.
Very quietly and like sweetly to each other.
Yeah,
it was. I'm glad they went with the take that they did, but it was cool for the behind the scenes, especially at that moment in the, you know, quote unquote story that they were telling in the documentary, to put that version of the scene in there.
Yeah, I watched it and like that almost made me cry. And I'm like, this is, first of all, it's a Star Wars thing. Second of all, it's behind the scenes. But I mean, the performances were so powerful. Mm-hmm. And I know that, you know, your opinion's, you know, biased a little bit by knowing that that's the last time that they ever got to act together. And I mean, Mark Hamill did that interview this week. I don't know if you saw it, but he said that he's not nearly as interested in returning for episode 9 now that he knows he's not going to be able to work with Carrie Fisher and Carrie Fisher especially, excuse me.
He's okay. There's still Anthony Daniels, but otherwise he's the last one.
He just said that was like the emotional anchor for him, to it. And he still will definitely come back, but he just said like, whereas before he was all excited about returning, now it's like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it really sucked a lot of life out of him to lose her. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can really see their connection in that scene in this documentary. And to me, it was an incredible documentary. And that was the best part of it.
Yeah.
And man, I just couldn't get over it. I rewatched it a couple times in a row. I'm like, man, that is just absolutely fantastic. Especially when you think about Carrie Fisher, she said that she wasn't even acting anymore at the time they called her to do episode 7. So she wasn't even doing anything. She said she had to get used to acting again. So for somebody that had only been, you know, really not doing a lot for a really long time, to be able to do something that poignant is really impressive. Mm-hmm. So,
you know what? I got to thank you for actually coming up with the show topic, because I've been too busy to watch it, even though I've had the thing, you know, since like day one digital release, like what, a month ago now?
Yeah.
And like, just to take a personal minute for a second, like work has sucked lately, like on a big project, super stressful. We're this week, especially, and this day, especially, it went backwards instead of forwards. Like we're farther from the finish line than towards it. And to sit down and watch this documentary,
it almost is a movie,
and just see an hour and a half of a whole group of people taking on a mammoth task and being almost overwhelmed by the enormity of it all, but just loving what they're doing and persevering and making a beautiful work of art. And then to have this documentary that is in itself a beautiful work of art is just like, that was like the shot of adrenaline I needed like this afternoon, especially. Yeah. I was like, yes, when you're creating something, it's hard, it's painful, but man, when you see it through to the end, you can get something great out of it. And that's really the takeaway from this whole documentary, is just like, this movie, love it or hate it, it is an absolute work of pure love for the craft of movie making.
Yeah.
Everybody from top to bottom was just doing the best work they possibly could.
Yeah. And I think what's even more fascinating, and you're welcome, by the way. What's even more fascinating is that Rian Johnson works with very small budgets and more independent type stuff. He'd never done this before. And then all of a sudden he's handed this enormous budget. And I mean, they even talked about, they had so many sets that they had to reuse some of them. So like
they had 120 sets in 100 days of shooting.
Yeah. So like Kylo's shuttle was something else. Like they would build something and use it for one thing and then change it just a little bit or just shoot it from a different angle as something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for him to be able to pull that off after having never done this before is incredible. But it did make me wonder something. I wanted to see what you guys think about this, because he does come from that small, much more personal, how do I phrase this? He's used to making much smaller character-driven films, I guess, with a smaller budget.
Yes.
He's used to be
a lot
on
of
the
creativity,
film festival circuit.
Yeah.
Instead of
yeah. Like having to rely on storytelling and character and stuff like that more than just like big budget, like explosions and fights and all that kind of stuff. Since he's writing a new trilogy, do you think he'll kind of do that with his new trilogy? Like make it more of like a smaller scale type of a thing like he's used to, or is he just going to go with the massive blockbuster thing again? I mean, or will Lucasfilm determine it?
Well, I think one thing that he definitely brings to the table that is different than the crop of blockbuster movie makers is that he does have a renewed sense of focus on character and story as being the main driving elements instead of spectacle. I think that's why this movie is so resonant, because there's always something new to latch onto. The glamour and the wow factor of the effects fades over time. You can get used to that, but the humanity that he puts on display is timeless. Yeah. So I hope he doesn't lose that now that he's got, a virtually unlimited budget. I mean, yes, there is a budget involved, but it keeps getting bigger every time.
Exactly.
It's really not a limitation. It's more like, how much do you need instead of this is how much you get.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do. It is a good question, because I think it's basically how long or short of a leash is Lucas/Disney going to give him on it? Because I think they want him to stick to what he knows, but at the same point, I don't know if they're willing to make it that cheap, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like that I think they're going to force him into using a certain budget to keep it.
There's an expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wonder if what he writes is going to lend itself more to something that doesn't need the scope and scale of episode 8.
And with the first movie in that, since it's going to be a brand new thing instead of building off of an original trilogy like he's got to work with now, he could probably easily get away with small budget and more character driven, because there's nothing that he has to work off of. He's starting from a blank slate now. So everything that goes further past his original idea all has to base off of his first telling of the story. So maybe he can kind of get away with super low budget and character stories instead of worrying about CG and green screen everything and stuff like that. Man, if he does go that smaller, more character driven route like that, I really hope that it's something about like the origins of the Jedi type of thing, or like Jedi related, like more of like the Jedi Force type of thing, because that's my favorite part of Star Wars. I mean, that's just a personal preference for me, but I just think you could tell some incredible stories if you kind of go back to the roots of the Jedi and kind of explain that type of thing. So that's just a personal preference to me, but I mean, I am super interested to see what he comes up with, because I love The Last Jedi. It's the same thing is happening with this movie for me as what happened with Rogue One, where every time I watch it, I like it more and more. I still prefer Rogue One, because Rogue One is there's literally not one thing in that movie except for the score
and not having a crawl, like I said in our review of the movie.
Yeah.
Those are the only two things, and those are obviously more joke things than anything. But other than those two things, there is not one thing that I dislike about Rogue One. That movie is perfect for me. I love it.
Oh, it's amazing.
And
yeah.
whereas Last Jedi, there's still a few things I'm like, yeah, well.
Has there been a fan edit that cuts Canto Bite out entirely?
I don't hate that scene, but I do feel like every time I've watched it since bringing the Blu-ray home, I'm just like, that scene is like 5-10 minutes too long.
I don't mind it.
I don't mind it, but it just seems like it. Like I didn't think it initially, or probably even the second time, but like the third, fourth time, I'm like, God, like, did this scene get longer? Like it almost seems really unnecessary at this point.
They had to introduce DJ because otherwise you're going to go,
yes.
How are Rose and Finn going to get onto Snoke's ship? Like,
yeah, that was the one thing they got out of that was DJ.
Yeah.
I mean, and people say, well, you don't need that crap with the 5 years. I'm sorry. I love the 5 years. I thought they were great, man.
Like, and I'm still completely fine with the scene. It's just like as I'm watching it, I'm just like, isn't this thing over yet? You know, it just really seems like it's a couple of minutes too long.
And the dialogue is like
reason.
Prequel levels of bad.
Well,
I wish I could put my fist through this whole beautiful town. What? Come on. Even in Star Wars, no one talks like that.
Even in the future, nothing works.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I could see why people would say it's unnecessary, but
here's why it's unnecessary. Because that footage that time in the movie could have been used for the caretaker scene.
Oh, yeah. Now that was cool.
That was a great friggin' scene. I love that scene.
That was one where I'm not sure why they
we
cut
said that
out.
in the last show. There was the one I can't remember there was one of the scenes with Leia that I said that should have been left in the movie, and then the caretaker scene. I was just like, how did they cut that thing out? That was so good,
especially that late in the process. Like that thing was done.
Yeah, and it was
you get to see that smart assness that was still in Luke at that time, where he's just like, I didn't know you could run that fast.
Yeah, and it was also a good Jedi lesson. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta have patience.
I love seeing R2 and Chewie sitting there. Chewie's just like,
Yeah, it's like, what the heck? I'm partying, dude. What the heck?
I kind of like
probably half in the bag.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chewie's all loaded.
I kind of like the caretaker stink eye that they cut too. That was another nice little bit there.
Yeah,
like she, working the what was she doing? Filleting the fish.
Yeah,
and then like just slows the knife down and gives the evil like the stink eye.
Yep,
she goes past.
Yeah, so.
Because man, that was one of the best story beats on Achto was the whole like Rey just keeps pissing off the caretakers.
Hopefully they carry that into episode 9, because she's going to be on that island for a decent amount of time still, and if she's still butting heads with the caretakers, that would be actually kind of funny to carry that into the next movie.
Well, I mean,
already has that which she needs.
Yeah. They did burn down the. You think she'll go back to the island?
Yeah,
maybe she'll look for more stuff, but I think
she's gonna go back into Luke's hut because he's still got that little chunk of the crystal in there that's gonna have something to do with her getting her lightsaber now. And I still say 100% that somehow she's gonna pull the Red 5 out of the water, and that's gonna be Poe's new used X-wing.
If she goes green lightsaber in episode 9, that's OP right there. That's next level. She's it.
Ugh, I'm so nervous for episode 9, especially after watching this documentary. I think she's gonna go with some weird like bow staff kind of lightsaber thing, like some of the old Knights of the Republic things with that smaller lightsaber blade on the end.
God, I just put this together. What if she does go back to the island and she gets Luke's green saber as her new lightsaber?
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
That would be amazing.
Cool. I wouldn't be mad at that.
That would be perfect like that, the ring theory storytelling too, because the same way Luke inherited Anakin's saber.
Yep.
Rey can inherit Luke's. Perfect.
I wouldn't be mad at that. My first
Where's our trademark? Come on, we need
to make that. We need to make that soundbite to put on Steve's computer, man.
This idea is copyright and referred to Council 2018.
Man, my first initial thought was when she was sitting there with the two pieces of her saber, her first hand-me-down saber. You got the small chunk of the blue crystal, plus there's the chunk of the red crystal that is on the island that was hanging up in Luke's hut. I was just like, initially, I'm like, she's gonna have some bow staff thing that's got a little blue saber on one end and a red on the other kind of thing.
Like she can't make up her mind if she's light side or dark.
Because there was some knights, I think it was Knights of the Old Republic, some of the guards or something had the big bow staffs. They had the real small saber ends on them. I was like, that could be something introduced, especially since Rey knows how to use the bow staff already and everything. But
I'm sure one of our audience members will answer this for us, but did they ever explain where Luke got that red chunk of kyber?
The visual dictionary had some weird.
They've explained it somewhere.
I own that book. I should go read about it and see.
Yeah, it's something
there.
that when I saw it didn't really make sense to me, though. That it was because they tried to link it to Darth Revan or something like that.
Weird.
It was so
that's
really.
My thought. I'm like, if it's not Vader's, why would he care?
Yeah.
Well, I heard that I read that some people are saying that it was Vader's.
Because that's what makes sense, that he got it from Vader after everything happened, in episode 6, that he would take a piece of that crystal with him. That's 100% makes sense that he would carry a piece of his dad with him.
Boy, there's a storyline they dropped, by the way. The whole, where the hell did Anakin's saber come from and get to Maz?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's... Yeah,
it's a story for a different time. Damn it,
and it's not going to be in these 3 movies. So. I mean, the thing with the Vader saber though is that Luke cut his hand off that he had the saber in, so it went down the shaft. So can't have that. So all right, well, that was a very good discussion. That's as I said, for all of you guys that don't like The Last Jedi, giving this documentary a chance, I think might change your mind a little bit on some things and maybe give you some enjoyment out of The Last Jedi. And if not, it's an interesting documentary of making a movie that you don't see anywhere. So maybe you'll get some enjoyment out of that. Who knows? We would all highly recommend it. So on that note, we will close up shop here. So thanks for checking out another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. As usual, we are brought to you by Audible. You can go to audibletrial.com/NHC for a free 30-day trial and an audiobook download of your choice.
Which now would be a good time. They're starting to put out all the lead-in titles to Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yep. What's it called? First Shot or Last Shot?
Last Shot.
Last Shot will be it's coming out the 17th. Story about Lando and Han, which is supposed to be pretty cool.
I've already used one of my Audible credits for the pre-order, so I will have that thing ready to go.
Awesome. We got to thank Galactic Empire for our theme music. Much appreciated. Don't forget they will have a new record coming out soon. They have a new single out, Scherzo for X-Wings or Scherzo for X-Wings. So you can get that. And the full record will be out on May 4th.
I'm kind of excited to hear what Ray's theme sounds like.
I know.
Those guys.
Yeah. They played, what was one they played? They played something from Attack of the Clones at the show, AJ. It was... wasn't it the island music? Like when they went to Naboo and they were, sand gets everywhere. But that music that
Across the Stars.
Yeah. Okay. It was really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, thanks to Galactic Empire. If you want to check us out, we are on most Android podcast apps. So that's good. Our main platform is Spreaker, of course. You can find us at Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Castbox. So basically just look us up on podcast apps and we should
everything with the word cast in it. We're probably on at this point.
Yep. Please check us out at our YouTube page and subscribe if you like to watch videos there. So you can hear all of our episodes there if you don't want to do it over podcasting apps and stuff. The website, nerfherdercouncil.com. We do have our Twitter page at NHC Podcast. We have our Facebook page, of course, which is, just look up the Nerf Herder Council. If you want to leave us a message and have your dulcet tones played on the show, we do have our voicemail line, which is 440-987-WARS, which is 9277. You can email us, feedback@nerfherdercouncil.com. So, as usual, I am your host, JT at Dogpound Jedi. He's AJ.
At Drake Adams, 579.
He's Steve.
At JSteve1005.
And we will catch you next time.
bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my nerf herder.
You my nerf herder.